Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about ancient Egypt. Specifically, we're diving into the Giza Plateau, but maybe not in the way you learned about it in school. We're going to look at it through the lens of some really unconventional theories, the kind you might find on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. The official story, the one we all know, is that the Great Pyramids were just these incredible, massive tombs for the pharaohs. End of story, right? Well, not so fast. Ancient astronaut theorists look at that and say, hold on a second, they've got some nagging questions that really challenge that whole idea. And they suggest that maybe, just maybe, their real purpose was something way more advanced than we've ever been told. So first up, the Giza Enigma. Are these things really just tombs? I mean, the whole idea of a tomb is that, there's a body in it. And that's where the problem starts. The real mystery isn't what we found, it's what we haven't found. Think about it. Explorers have found pyramids with chambers that were sealed, perfectly intact. And yet, the sarcophagi inside? Empty. The pharaohs themselves are just gone.
And this is where you get two completely different ways of looking at it. The mainstream archaeologists, they say, look, it was grave robbers. And sure, that makes sense on the surface. But the ancient astronaut theory asks a much weirder question. What if that stone box wasn't meant to hold a body at all? What if it was some kind of machine?
And get this, the mystery gets even deeper. Literally, just a stone's throw from the Sphinx, there's this place called the Osiris Shaft. You go down and down, almost 10 stories underground. And what do you find at the bottom, sitting in water? A massive, 9-foot-long black granite sarcophagus. Way too big for a regular person. And it's right in the spot believed to be the burial chamber for the god Osiris.
So, this brings us back to that wild idea. What if it's not a coffin, but a machine? I mean, the word sarcophagus itself literally means flesh eater. Kind of creepy, right? Well, the theory takes that idea and runs with it. It suggests this was a device for transmutation, where a body wasn't just buried, but was actually consumed. And, as this quote puts it, could portal out of our reality entirely? I mean, wow. Okay, so if we're playing with the idea that these pyramids are machines, that leads us to our next big question. Could they have been power plants? People who support this theory say, look at the construction. The incredible precision isn't about showing off for a dead king. It's about engineering. It's about building a machine that works. And when we say precision, we mean precision. This thing covers 13 acres, and it's leveled to within like 7/8 of an inch. That's insane. The outer casing stones were fitted together so tightly you couldn't even slide a credit card between them. Honestly, we'd have a hard time building that today with all our modern tech. So the question is a big one. How on earth did a society with copper chisels and simple tools pull this off? The clues don't stop there. Deep inside the pyramid, in the Queen's Chamber, there's this tiny little shaft. Back in 1993, they sent a robot up there, and it hit a wall, a sealed door with these two metal fittings on it. It took them years to figure out what to do, but they finally drilled a tiny hole and poked a camera through. And behind that door, a secret chamber. And inside, more of those copper fittings and these strange red lines on the floor that, to some people, look an awful lot like electrical symbols.
All of this is fuel for the fire for a theory from an engineer named Christopher Dunn. He basically throws the whole tomb idea out the window. He says the Great Pyramid was a machine, a massive, brilliantly designed power plant that could tap into the natural vibrations of the Earth itself and generate wireless energy.
So how would a giant stone power plant even work? Well, according to this theory, it's a 3-step process. First, you'd pump certain chemicals down shafts into the Queen's Chamber. That kicks off a chemical reaction, creating hydrogen gas. Then, that gas gets funneled up to the King's Chamber. And here's the kicker, the whole structure, acting like a giant tuning fork, would use the Earth's vibrations to supercharge that hydrogen gas, turning it into a focused beam of microwave energy. So you see, in this view, every chamber and shaft had a purpose, a mechanical purpose, not a ceremonial one.
Okay, so if we've got these incredible pieces of technology, then who were the people who used them? Well, that brings us to one of the most mysterious figures in all of Egyptian history, the heretic pharaoh Akhenaten. This guy ruled back in the 14th century BC, and his story, well, it just makes this whole puzzle even stranger.
This guy, Akhenaten, was a total radical. He came in and just threw out centuries of Egyptian religion. All the gods, all the rituals, gone. He told everyone they had to worship just one thing, a deity called the Aten, which was always shown as a disk in the sky. But honestly, the weirdest part isn't what he did, it's what he looked like, or at least how he had himself shown in all the art.
I mean, look at this. On the one hand, you have the standard pharaoh, strong, powerful, you know the look. And then you have Akhenaten. He's got this super long, elongated skull, a long face, a skinny, sunken chest, and this big potbelly. It's just bizarre. It's so different from everyone else that it forces you to ask a pretty serious question.
Was this just some new weird art style? Or maybe a genetic condition? Or was it something else? And that something else is where the theory gets really wild. The suggestion is that maybe he wasn't fully human. And to back this up, they point to real elongated skulls that have been found all over the world, from Peru to Malta. And what's really strange about some of these skulls is that they're missing a key feature all human skulls have, the sagittal suture, a joint right on top. This suggests these skulls weren't just misshapen after birth, they might have actually grown that way naturally.
So the mystery isn't just confined to Egypt. It's not just about one weird pharaoh or a potential power plant. The stones of the pyramids themselves might be telling a much bigger story, one that spans the entire globe. This brings us to the idea of a lost global pyramid network.
Here's a fact that nobody disputes. The limestone blocks of the Giza pyramids are filled with marine fossils. Like tons of them. Seashells, tiny sea creatures, you name it. And this one simple fact leads to two completely different stories about our past.
Okay, so story number one, the mainstream one. The Egyptians just cut the stone from a quarry that used to be an ancient seabed millions of years ago. Simple, makes sense. But then there's story number two, the ancient astronaut theory. It suggests something way more catastrophic, that the pyramids themselves were actually underwater at some point, submerged by a massive, world-ending flood. And some theorists take it a step further, suggesting this wasn't a natural disaster. It was an engineered cataclysm. Maybe an attack by extraterrestrials to wipe a global advanced civilization off the map.
Now, the obvious question is, if there was this super advanced global civilization, where's all the evidence? Well, according to the theory, the evidence is everywhere. We're just not looking in the right places, or we're being told not to look. A lot of it is hidden, either deep underwater or buried under layers of official denial.
And this is what they're talking about. People have reported pyramid-like structures all over the planet, and in some pretty shocking places. We're talking huge structures found underwater off the coast of Cuba and near Japan. There's even one supposedly at the bottom of Rock Lake, Wisconsin. For the theorist, this is the smoking gun. It points to a worldwide network of pyramids, and they claim governments are actively covering it up so that we don't piece together the true story of our past.
So, let's take a step back. When you put all these pieces together, the empty tombs, the power plant theory, the strange pharaoh, the underwater pyramids, you start to see a completely different picture of the ancient world. And it is absolutely mind-bending.
You've got the Giza Plateau not as a graveyard, but as a massive power station. You've got a pharaoh who might have been some kind of alien hybrid. And you've got a global civilization with pyramids all over the world wiped out by a mysterious flood. These aren't just small tweaks to the history books. These ideas shake the very foundation of everything we think we know about where we come from.
Now, the source for these theories doesn't pretend to have all the answers. Nobody does. But the point is, by just being willing to ask these big, crazy questions, by looking at these incredible ancient mysteries without our modern blinders on, maybe, just maybe, we get a little bit closer to the truth. So that's the question we're left with. Are these clues just pointing to a lost chapter of human history that we've forgotten, or are they pointing to something extraterrestrial?